Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to Germany. We're going to go to Munich, which as we know is a very famous beer city, and we're revisiting one of the famous Munich 6 breweries. Now I have reviewed beers from this brewery before, the Oktoberfest beer and also their Doppelbock, but this is one that I just have never got around to making a review for, and I'm not quite sure why. So I saw this one in Spatenbräu when I was in the other day, and I thought, you know, I'm in the mood for a German lager, let's have a look at this one and make a video for it. And if you've watched the channel before, you will know that I'm a huge fan of my traditional German beers. Oddly enough, it was the Spatenbräu beers that got me into beer originally, and then the Helles, the Weizens, the Goses, the Dunkels and Doppelbocks and things, they all came a little bit after that. So for this one then, we are going to go to Spatenbräu München, and we're going to have a look at the Münchner Helles. But this beer in the EU, outside of Germany, goes under the name Spaten München. And in America it is also sold as the Spaten Premium Lager. But regardless, this one is 5.2% Münchner Helles, Munich style Helles beer, and it comes in at 5.2% ABV. So it should be a really nice one, this. I don't think even when I've been in Munich that I've tried this beer. I think it was Augustiner and Paulaner and stuff like that, and Hofbräu that I drank. I don't think I've actually ever tried this one, oddly enough, but it's one that I've seen around quite often, and as I say, just never got around to trying it before. So really curious to see how this one turns out, and as always I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer. It's cool to finally get around to reviewing this one for you, and I know that my other Munich beer reviews have been fairly popular, particularly the Augustiner lager beer. That's one of my more kind of popular videos, if you like. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. Definitely cool to visit Spatenbräu once again after quite a wee while. I think it's about 2 and a bit years since I last filmed a review from these guys. So yeah, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Spatenbräu München before. No doubt I will add some more at some point in the near future. I don't intend on leaving it another 2 and a bit years until my next review from them. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the German beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to very regularly whenever I can get a hold of some German beers, of course. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Spatenbräu München. So the story of Spaten goes back to the year 1337, when it was first mentioned on the tax book of Hans Welser for his property on the Neuhausergasse. So over the next 125 years, the owners of the brewery changed many times, and in 1522, 100 years of ownership by the Starnberg family began. The brewery was then owned by the Spath family, who of course gave it its final name from 1622 until 1704, and then the Zeismeier family took over it until 1807. So in 1807 the brewery was then acquired by Gabriel Sedlmayr, and at this point it was the smallest brewery operating in Munich, and it has since been led by this family over generations basically. In 1817 the company purchased the Spatenkeller in Bayerstrasse, and after Gabriel's death in 1839, his son Gabriel Jr. and also Joseph, the other son, took over the running of the brewery, and then in 1861 Joseph purchased the Leistbrauerei as well. So they also built their new brewery facility on Marstrasse in the early 1850s, and they moved all the production over there to this site. 1858 also saw the beginning of the partnership with Franziskaner, who we know mainly for their Weizen beer these days. But this was after Gabriel purchased the shares of August Dielmeyer, and because of these expansions, Spaten thus became the largest brewery in Munich until the end of the 19th century, by which time it had passed on to Gabriel's sons Johann, Karl and Anton, and the company logo as it is today, this one here with the sort of spade on it, This was designed by Otto Hoop back in 1884, so a pretty old logo I have to say, but I can't quite remember if that is the oldest one out of the Munich 6. But the brewery is also credited with having introduced the Helles and Pilsner style of beers to Munich at the very end of the 19th century, and they also opened up a branch office in London and began their exports over to the US in 1909, and this was just before the brewery passed over to the fourth Sedlmayr generation in 1911, and this was Heinrich and Fritz. So in 1922 the Franziskaner Brauerei came under full control of the Sedlmayr family, and they established also a contract of interests with Löwenbräu, and that remains until this day. The brewery was severely damaged during the Second World War, but they began exports once again in 1950, so pretty impressive that they were able to rebuild themselves in just 5 years to not far off the scale they were before. But the brewery continued to go strongly over the coming years, and in 1992 they surpassed the production mark of 1 million hectolitres of beer per year. 1997 saw the company celebrate their 600th anniversary, and they officially joined completely with Löwenbräu in 2000, and later in 2003, sorry, they joined AB InBev as well. I think it was just InBev at that time, and then they joined with Anheuser-Busch a little bit later on. But yeah, that's your history of one of the other Munich 6 breweries, along with Augustiner, Hofbräu, Paulaner, Löwenbräu of course, and Hacker-Pschorr. So yeah, pretty impressive this one. As I say, this beer is a regular in the Systembolaget range here in Sweden. The other beers that they have in the range are the Alkoholfrei, the Maibock, the Münchner Dunkel, which I would like to try actually. That would be interesting to try the Spaten Dunkel. There's this one here, the Münchner Hell. They've got the Optimator, which is their Doppelbock, the Pils, the Premium Bock, and also a Premium Lager as well apparently. So yeah, interesting that. I don't know if the Premium Lager, I don't think that's the one that goes over to America. I think it is this one, the Münchner Hell. But yeah, a very interesting brewery, this one of the famous Munich 6, and as I say, I'm a big fan of my traditional German beers, and the Munich Helles I think is kind of an underrated beer style in the world, along with the Dunkels and the Doppelbocks. And I know that my friend Peter over at the Clueless Drinker channel, he's one that would definitely agree with me on that. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Spatenbräu München just now. The official name of the group, I believe, is Spatenbräu Franziskaner Löwenbräu. I think it's the Spaten Franziskaner Löwenbräu Gruppe is what they call it in German. So yeah, quite a few beers. I need to try and review some of the other Löwenbräu ones for you as well, and Franziskaner of course is one that I should review at some point too. But yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this before we open it up. So Spaten have actually just changed their artwork. They've got a bottle that's a little bit more of a kind of stubby one that you would see from the Franconian beers. It's still a ½ litre right enough, but the neck isn't quite as tall and it's a bit wider of course, and the artwork looks a little bit more kind of old school. They've changed the design around of that, but I don't think those bottles have reached Sweden as of the time that I bought this one. But there you can see, there is the Spaten symbol there. That's also on the little top label that you'll always get on German beers, and it is of course on the bottle cap here as well. So yeah, really nicely presented beer this one. Let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. I really hope that I can get hold of the Dunkel at some point, because, you know, out of the German lagers, the Schwarzbier, the Dunkel and the Helles of course, to be honest, the Dunkel probably is my favourite one. And it was cool of course, the thing that really got me back into the Dunkels recently was when I saw Peter reviewing the Augustiner Dunkel, and then I managed to find a bottle of that myself, which was awesome. So yeah, there you go. We've got this in my nice Pilsner Urquell glass. I managed to get one of my big Stein mugs, my colourless ones, transparent ones over here to Sweden with me. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, it's poured a lovely bright golden yellow colour, which is exactly what you would expect from a Munich Helles beer. If I hold this up to the light, you know, it really does stay a very, very bright kind of golden sweet corn, straw yellow, whatever you want to say. The head on this one of course has just faded away. Maybe I didn't pour it aggressively enough, or maybe the glass is just a little bit too clean because I washed this before I packed it up to bring with me. But you can see there's quite a few big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there. There's a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of where the head was. The head was about a ½ finger of a frothy, creamy coloured thing, but you can see that has just faded away to be a very, very thin, foamy layer. But yeah, some lovely big bubbles sticking towards the bottom there, and there's a steady stream of smaller carbonation going up to the top. But yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider that it is a Munich Helles. You do sometimes get Untitled Helles as well, which is the unfiltered one, and it'll be a bit hazy, but this one, pretty sure, just by the looks of it, this one has been filtered. So yeah, let's take a look at the aroma then and see how we get on with this beer. Oh yeah, that's it's really nicely balanced, that. I mean, straight away you get those lovely smooth Münchner malts out of this one. So that white bready note in there. On top of that you get a little bit of a biscuity quality as well, a little bit like a kind of McVitie's digestive sort of thing. Not sure how good a reference that is for Germans though. So yeah, but for me, McVitie's digestive biscuits, or the Americans would call that kind of cookies. But I prefer, you know, the real English, as I always say. But yeah, so yeah, some nice biscuity notes in there. A little bit of that kind of white, how do you say that, white bready thing. There's a little bit of a kind of bread crusty note in here as well, actually. I've always said one of the things I really miss about living in Germany was the bakeries, because they've always had, in my opinion, Germany's got some of the best bakeries that you're ever going to find in the world. Some of the cakes that you get over there are absolutely ridiculous. They're beautiful. But yes, there's one or two little kind of woody undertones to this one for me, which is quite nice. And that's mixing in with the bready notes, but a little bit of greeniness in there as well. And some nice kind of caramelly, well, not really caramelly, more biscuity, like I say. So the malt base is pretty straight up. It is what you would expect from a Munich Helles. You know, the Munich Helles, it's fair to say, is not the most complex style of beer in the world, or even in Germany. I mean, the Doppelbocks, I think, win that hands down. Maybe, I don't know, maybe one or two of the Goses, or some of the stronger Alt beers and Rauch beers, right enough. It might take that crown, but yeah, the Munich Helles beer is very straight up in terms of its aroma, and this is a very kind of typical example for me. But I think the biscuity notes in this are a little bit stronger than some of the other ones that I've come across before. In terms of the hoppiness, you've got that light little bit of earthiness that you would expect of Hallertau or Tettnanger hops. You've got other varieties in Germany, of course, the you see the Hercules, what other ones are there? Some of the other ones have gone right out of my head as well. Hallertau, Blanc, Mandarin and Bavaria, but it won't be those that's in this, it'll be the lower alpha acid ones. But yeah, it's a lovely smelling beer, this. I mean, I love this style, just bear that in mind. If you're a craft beer drinker and into the IPAs and things like that, you'll think this one just, it's quite mild in its aroma compared to those. But if like me, you love the classic beers, the classic German beers, this one really is lovely. On the green side of the hops then, it's got a little bit of floral character. For me, it leans more towards that soft kind of grassy side of things, and on the fruity part of the beer, it's got a little bit of that kind of appley, peary sort of thing that you'll get from Hallertau and Tettnanger. You know, and I think that's about it with the aroma. Yeah, a little bit of peary, appley ester, some citrusy notes, not quite strong enough or sharp enough to be lemon, but you know, those grassy, citrusy, zesty kind of notes that are in there. But overall, it's a really nice smelling beer, this one. So take a bit of time and just you know, just enjoy that aroma before you actually have a taste of it. But that's what we're going to do now. So this one is the Münchner Helles, coming in at 5.2% ABV, the sort of flagship beer, if you like, of Spatenbräu München, part of the Spatenbräu, the Spaten Löwenbräu Franziskaner Gruppe from AB InBev, based in Munich in Germany, one of the big Munich 6 breweries' flagship beer. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, Prost. Yeah, it's a solid beer, that. You know, that's always my thing. I'm always kind of like, I wish that the German lagers were a bit more easily available to us, if you like. And you know, if you go into the supermarkets in Germany, you will get a Helles or a Dunkel or whatever that's brewed locally, and it's cheap. Whereas if you come here to Sweden or You have to go to the Spatenbräu to get a hold of this, and not every shop is going to stock that one readily. You know, sometimes at home in Scotland, to get this beer, you have to go to a specialist beer shop. You know, you can, in fairness, you can get Weihenstephaner and things like that. You can get one or two German beers in the supermarket, the slightly smaller brewed ones. Even though these are big breweries, the kind of medium, I don't know, is it right to call them a medium-sized brewery? But you know, you can get these. It's very difficult to get a hold of even the Munich 6 breweries in the supermarkets and stuff back in Scotland. You know, if you think about the quality of these and compare them to the macro beers that are on the market, it's a shame, because these are absolutely, these are on a different level completely. But yeah, if you like this style, if you like the Munich Helles, this is a lovely example. So yeah, with something like this, or the Augustiner Lager beer, Hacker Pschorr are a little bit more difficult to get. Löwenbräu as well, you don't see too often. Paulaner and Hofbräu, they're maybe a little bit easier to get. You know, yeah, I would say that Paulaner, this one, and yeah, probably Paulaner and Spaten are the easier two Helles beers to get a hold of. And Augustiner is probably the most common one to find in the more specialist beer shops, I would say. But it really is a shame when you think about how you know, how many people drink lager and light beers like this. It's a shame that the German breweries aren't kind of capitalising that a bit more. A lot of their production is taken up by the domestic market, right enough. But yeah, it's a lovely example of the style. So let's try and break this down then. Straight away in the middle of the palate you get that lovely, smooth, white bready Munich malt quality. That goes right across the middle of your tongue. I find that it softens up a little bit later. And if you go towards the back of the palate, I feel it kind of crispen, it sort of gets a little bit more kind of crispy, if you like. The beer just feels that little bit more kind of crisp and drinkable towards the back of the palate. But as you move further forward, if you go to the front corners of the tongue and move in, I think there's one or two little woody notes to this beer for me. But in the very centre of your palate, that's where you get the nice kind of biscuity, oily biscuity sweetness out of this one. And for me, if you move further out from the centre of the palate, it does get a little touch more kind of grainy and things like that. But from memory, the malt base in this one to me feels a little bit softer, but also a little bit more oily than some of the other Munich Helles beers that I've reviewed from Munich. I mean, it just to me seems that little bit more kind of oily, but I think that gives it a little bit more kind of drinkability as well. So if you want your Helles to be a little bit more kind of crisp, then perhaps the Spaten one is the way to go. Whereas, and probably Augustiner, from what I remember, fits into that regard as well, but I remember the breadiness being a little bit more kind of smooth in that as well. Hofbräu, I think I still have to review the Hofbräu Helles for you. I'm trying to think of the other ones, but regardless, the way that malt base goes together in this one is really nice. And that's what I really like about these beers, is that you can have this style that you know roughly what it should taste like, but each of the different breweries, they all have their own little nuances and things like this. But the quality of these beers, the really interesting thing about the German beer industry is how they can brew on such a big scale and maintain such good quality. And you know, you think about the big companies in Germany, and that's what it's all about. But Germany also has a hell of a lot of medium and small size companies as well, which has been great for their economy, and they'll produce beers like that. You'll find the more kind of quirky beers from the very small family owned brewers, but you've still got the big boys like this that are doing great quality things as well. So thumbs up to Spaten. The malt base in this I think is very, very nice. Two completely different aspects of brewing, right enough. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a little teeny touch of earthiness there. As I've always said, when it comes to Hallertau and Tittnanger, the earthiness is quite sort of bright and soft, so you can get that. And as you come further forward, it spreads a little bit, but then as you reach the front corners of the palate, you get a nice little bit of a floral aromaticity. But then very quickly, as you go round the front curve of the palate, it changes to be a bit more lighter and grassy. And then behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you get that little oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. And Again, this one, it's quite similar to what you would expect from the Aroma. It's got a little bit of a kind of peary type thing, a little bit of an apple-y sort of thing too, but as you go further into the aftertaste, you get a little bit more of a kind of citrusy, zesty kind of thing out of this. It's not too drying and things, it just kind of mixes in quite nicely with the grassy notes that this beer has. But I mean, this is, as I say, it's a beautiful example of a Helles. If you're a craft beer drinker, you know, the flavours and stuff in this are by, you know, they're nowhere near the kind of boldness and things that you're going to get from some of these IPAs and stuff. But these beers aren't designed for that. They are designed to just be, you know, more drinkable and sessionable and things like that. That's what the Czech beers and the German, the Bavarian beers are all about. The Kulsches, I guess, and I don't know so much about the Alt beers, but yeah, the Kulsches probably fit into that regards too. The Alt beers are a little bit more malty in my experience. But this is a beautiful beer. And especially for somebody like me who really enjoys the Münchner Helles style. So give it a go and see what you think. I do still need to review the, I'm sure I reviewed the Hacker Shore Helles, so I think it's Löwenbräu Helles that I need to have a go at. I think that might be the last of the Munich 6 that I need to look at, but I do want to have a little look at the Dunkel from these guys as well. And an interesting thing is that the Munich 6 breweries don't tend to do the Schwarz beers, but who knows, maybe that will change at some point in the future, because I know that a lot of the traditional German breweries are starting to have a go at different styles and things now. So that would be cool to see the Munich 6 breweries having a go at brewing some Schwarz beers. That would be awesome. But in terms of the mouthfeel then, I'd say this beer, it's fairly light-bodied. The carbonation is quite smooth, but it does have a degree of crispness to it. But I would say, compared to what I remember of the other Helles beers, I do find this one a little bit more oily than some of the other ones, and I think that helps bring out the different flavours in the malt base that I was talking about. In terms of the hoppy side of things, I think you'd be lucky to get about 20 IBUs out of this beer. There's not too much in the way of bitterness to this one. The malt base, like I said, is very smooth. It's got a little bit of an oily character to it as well. It feels a little bit wetter, to be honest, too. And on the fruity side of things, it's pretty much what you expect. A little bit of an apple-y, peary ester. They come across as a little bit oily, but you do get some kind of citrusy qualities coming out of the beer as well. But overall, a really nice take on the Munich Helles. What else would you expect from one of the big Munich 6 breweries? A slightly more oily and maybe a little touch sweeter than some of the other ones that I've had. It's not the crispest, the crispiest. It's not the most crisp, I guess we should say, of the Munich 6, I don't think. But a really nice beer, this one, and it was nice to get around to finally reviewing this one for you. So I think my next one from Spaten will probably be the Dunkel, but we'll see what I can come across. But yeah, really nice to have a look at this beer for you on the channel at last. I hope you guys have enjoyed my take on this one. I always enjoy reviewing my traditional German beers when I get the chance, so we'll see what we can find for you over the next little while. I think Franziskaner is one that I do need to have a look at some point soon. That's been on the list for a little while, but yeah, we'll see how we get on. But yeah, thank you again for watching my beer reviews. As always, please let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Spatenbräu as well. We will return to this brewery at some point in the near future. I've got no intention of leaving another 2 or 3 years, but thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Make sure you check out my social media, have a go at some of the Spatenbräu beers. If you get the chance, go and visit Munich and try the Munich 6 beers. You know, the Löwenbräus, the Paulaners, the Augustiners, the Hacker Shores, you know, all of these guys, they are worth checking out. So this one was the Spatenbräu München Münchner Helles, sold in the US as Spaten Premium Lager, and in the EU as just Spaten München. But the name of this beer, from what I gather, is the Spaten Münchner Helles, and it's pretty damn nice, I have to say. Big fan of this style. So thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, prost.